Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namasadase. This evening, I fully realize to the depths of each and every cell of my body as to what stage fear is. I'm groping for words with the two towering personalities on the dais. At the outset, my very sincere wishes to all those who are responsible for the wonderful functioning of the Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute in the last 78 years. I do understand the 75th year celebrations have been pushed by 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Friends, generally, Indological research, Indic research, research in Sanskrit, research in any language of India, many of us tend to think these are not of practical use. These are not necessary for one to lead a prosperous life in the present world. The COVID-19 pandemic caught us unaware, and that is when several terms went into the everyman's vocabulary. People did not know what was social distancing until then. Everybody started talking about social distancing, physical distancing, PPE, vaccination, and so on. However, if you go into what Indic knowledge says, you would be surprised. I was just flipping through some of the papers which belong to the time when the King Institute of Preventive Medicine was inaugurated in the then city of Madras. King was a public health expert. He was one of those Britishers, the British medical men who had been posted to Madras, and he did a lot of work in the public health aspect of the then Madras presidency and initiated the process of an institute of public health. On the inauguration of this King Institute, the then Governor of the Madras Presidency, Lord Ampthill, gave the inaugural address. And in that inaugural address, Ampthill quoted from the ancient works of India, of Bharat. Many of us think inoculation and vaccination were brought to the world by people like Edward Jenner. If you ask any of our intelligent students today, they would narrate paragraphs and paragraphs of Jenner doing the inoculation the first time, cowpox, this, that, and all that. But then I would read what Ampthill quoted that day. Quote, permit me to read it, quote, Denu stanya masurika, naranam cha masurika, tajjalam bahumulascha, Sastratena grihitavan bahumolacha sastrani raktolpatti karani chatajjalam rektamilitam spotaka jwara sambhavam. A clear narration of the methodology. Take the fluid from the udder of the cow, take it to the human being, the bahumolam, which is the shoulder area, and holding it, penetrate and see to that that fluid gets into the shoulder zone. Bahumolascha sastrani raktolpatti karani. When you do it, there should be blood drops coming out, and after that there would be fever in the individual, but then sometime later the individual will get immunity. Centuries before Edward Jenner thought of cowpox and inoculation techniques. Centuries before. This is where I personally feel a lot of research is required in the Indic knowledge. It is not sufficient that we talk about Aryabhatta, Bhaskara, just enumerate the names. But then there is so much available. In one of the texts related to the science of healing, there is a kind of a particular metal that has been talked of. Now this is with reference to the kings going to the battlefield. There's a lot of exchange of all those astra-sastras, and it so happens that some pieces of the weaponry would get embedded in the body. How do you take them out? You would have to pull out that piece. Fine, if you can hold the piece, if it's large enough or long enough, you can pull it out. But then if it's a small, tiny piece which gets embedded in the flesh, it's not that easy to pick it out. And then they talk about manufacturing what is called the Badira Loha. You know, a kind of a metal which is manufactured. And the description goes as follows: take lime fruit, a particular variety of oleander. I'm just giving you the translation because if we go into those details, then we would only be corroding into time. The Virinchi Palam, the Bilvam, the Kandankatri, and then of course the jackfruit, Karpuram, camphor, and a few other ingredients. Mix all these ingredients in a particular type of a vessel and heat it to a particular temperature. You get a black stuff which is very viscous in nature, and this black viscous, whatever you call it, the compound is called the Badira Loha, and if this Badira Loha is kept for some time, it solidifies and then will be able to pull out all those small pieces which have got embedded in the muscles and the tissues. Now, I'm not trying to say this would definitely be a kind of a metal or a kind of a concoction which would pull out whatever that's got embedded. But have we ever tried all these? Have we ever even looked at all these things and have we tried to work out if this is possible or not? We are blissfully unaware. It's not only in Sanskrit literature, but then in Indian literature for that matter, Sanskrit being the base. There's so much of information available, And a scientific approach would only be to check if these things are possible. Unfortunately, the larger world has not tried to look at all these things. And that is where the work of the Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute becomes glorious, that a consistent stream of research work is being carried out here. And I stand here to congratulate all those who are associated with this institute, and especially my very good friend Kameshwari. Sometimes, especially being in the southern part of the country, many of us tend to think Sanskrit is something like, okay, it came from somewhere, came from here and all that. But as a vivid Tamil literature learner, I have found there is so much of interaction or so much of interpolation between Sanskrit and Tamil. It is just impossible to separate the two of them. It is just impossible. It is like two sisters. If the two sisters are born in the same house, they grow up in the same house, it's customary for the parents to say, மூத்த பொண்ணுக்கும் இளைய பொண்ணுக்கும் சம்பந்தமே இருக்காது, இவ வேற மாதிரி அவ வேற மாதிரி. But then both of them would get married, go away, and then after about 10-15 years, it would happen that one occasion, one vacation, both of them would have come back, and then would be the comment, அக்கா தங்க ரெண்டு பேரும் ஒரே மாதிரி தான் நினைக்கிறாங்க. When things are kept close by, you only notice the differences. When things are a little away, you tend to notice the similarities. These are two sisters. And I find Tamil literature has so many words which have just been taken from Sanskritam. Somebody was telling about Tolkapiyam, ma'am. You were talking about Tolkapiyam. In fact, Tolkapiyam very clearly says, you take any word from anywhere, but just have one dictum. You try and make it a little, I don't know what to say. If you say, try to make it a little like English, you call it anglicized. But what do we say, sir? Tamil-sized, something like that. Tamil madri irkanum. And please tell me, Sanskrit word use pannada Tamil pulavargal, பழங்கால புலவர்கள் யாராவது ஒருத்தர நம்மால அடையாளம் கண்டுபிடிக்க முடியுமா? I'm throwing an open challenge. ஒரே ஒருத்தர் முழுசா தமிழ்ல மட்டும்தான் எழுதியிருக்கார். அப்படி ஒரு 4 லைன் எழுதினதெல்லாம் வச்சு சொல்ல வேண்டாம், கொஞ்சம் ஸ்லைட்லி ஒரு கணிசமான அளவுக்கு இருக்கிற ஒரு ஒர்க். திருவாச்சகம் has so many Sanskritam words in it. Of course, adapted to the style and pronunciation of the Tamil language. Of course, Namashivaya, seri, adu Namachivaya, adu vera vadi illa, ena adu panchaksharam, adu apdiye da use pannanom. But there are so many other words. Unfortunately, we don't even understand the meaning of such words. That is what is my great worry and great fear, because in due course we would lose the meaning of such words. We would lose the word itself. Tiruvachagathla, Sivapuranathla, there is a particular word. Many of you would know those lines. Namachivaya வாழ்க, நாதன் தாழ் வாழ்க, இமை பொழுதும் என் நெஞ்சில் நீங்காதான் தாழ் வாழ்க. இது அப்படியே போகும். கோகழியாண்ட குருமனிதன் தாழ்வாழ்க, ஆகமமாகி நின்று அன்னிப்பான் தாழ்வாழ்க, வேகம் கெடுத்தாண்ட வேந்தன் அடி வெல்க. இது நடுவில் என்னாகும்? ஈசன் அடி போற்றி, எந்த அடி போற்றி, தேசன் அடி போற்றி, சிவன் சேவடி போற்றி. If you go to any of the bookshops and pick up a copy of Shivapuranam I'm sure at least 50% of those copies which are available, published by different publishers, இந்த தேசன் என்ன ஆயிருக்கும்னா பாவமா நேசன் ஆயிருக்கும், நேயம் ஆயிருக்கும், ஏதோ மாறி போயிருக்கும். Because people tend to think இது ஏதோ print error, typo, இது தப்பா போட்டுட்டாங்க, தேசம்னு ஒரு வார்த்தை வந்திருக்க முடியாது. So they say நேசம் and then make it தமிழைஸ்ட், நேயம் அப்படின்னு மாற்றி நேயன் அடி போற்றி. Unfortunately அடுத்த வரியை பார்த்தாலே this kind of a change is wrong அப்படின்னு தெரியும். ஈசன் அடி போற்றி, எந்தை அடி போற்றி, தேசன் அடி போற்றி, சிவன் சேவடி போற்றி, நேயத்தே நின்ற நிமலன் அடி போற்றி. இங்க நேயம்னு யூஸ் பண்ண ஒரு புலவர் முன்னால வரியில இன்னொரு நேயம் யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்க மாட்டார். திஸ் இஸ் கிராமர். ரெண்டு நேயம் அடுத்த வரியில வந்திருக்காது. அப்ப என்ன? இதுக்கு சிமிலரா there is something in திருப்பாவை. Similar word. கீசு கீஸ் என்ற ஆனை சாத்தன் கலந்து பேசின பேச்சரவம் கேட்டிலையோ பேய் பண்ணே, கேசவனை பாடவும் கேட்டே கிடத்தியோ தேசமுடையாய் திரவேலோர் எம்பாவாய். தேசமுடையாய். Some years ago, when the British people were here, someone had attempted a translation of the Tirupavai. By and large, a good translation. But அவர் என்ன பண்ணிட்டார் பாவம், அந்த நேட்டிவிட்டி தெரியாததுனால இந்த தேசமுடையாய்க்கு ஓ மிஸ்ட்ரஸ் ஆஃப் த கண்ட்ரி அப்படின்னு எழுதிட்டார். தேசமுடையாய் became தேசமுடையாய். தேஷ் இல்ல, அது தேஷ் becoming தேஷ், தேசம் இல்ல. It is தேஜஸ் becoming தேசம். ஈசன் அடி போற்றி, எந்தை அடி போற்றி, சிவன் சேவடி போற்றி எல்லாம் வரும்போது தேசன் அடி போற்றி, the one who's effulgent, அதுதான் அங்க அர்த்தம். தேசமுடையாய் திரவேலோர் அப்படின்னா ஒளிபடைத்த பெண்ணே வந்து கதவை தர. The reason I'm trying to tell this is that we have so much to look into, we have so much to think about, we have so much to research upon. நிறைய இருக்கு. Our Indic system has so much. The word nimisham, there is an old treatise which talks about the solar rays reaching the earth. You know, we all know with our current astronomical information that it takes about 8 minutes for the solar light to reach us, and we talk in terms of light years along. This is also kind of spoken in the ancient Sanskrit literature. But we make a wrong calculation and then pass a very hasty judgment that our forefathers were not very clear. They just spoke something, Panam Panchangam. There is a word called nimisham. Now, what is this nimisham? I wouldn't want any of Kameshwari and her team to define nimisham here. The rest of the lot, to many of us, nimisham is what? A minute. Right? 10 நிமிஷம் பேச சொன்னா இந்த அம்மா என்னத்துக்கு 11வது நிமிஷம் பேசுறாங்க, kind of நிமிஷம், minute. For want of better terminology, probably we equated minute and nimisham. Nimisham is the time taken for the eyelid to go down. That is all. The upper eyelid, the only eyelid that would move of the two eyelids, the upper eyelid goes down. The time taken for it to go down, avladhan. The wink of the eyelid, avladhan nimisham. Nimesha unmesha. There are many stories there, like, you know, Nimi Chakravarti is supposed to be sitting on the eyelid, and then that is why that movement is called. He is coordinating the movement, and that's why it's named after him, Nimisham and all that. Unfortunately, in the Nimisham, wink of the eyelid, anga kuduthirukra information, so many Nimishams. We'll calculate Nimisham as 60 seconds and multiplication pota, tapatapa varum answer. Now, one small little word. I'm not even talking about paragraphs or chapters and books. One small little word. And if we do not read the word the right way, we land in confusion and then say our forefathers were wrong. There are so many things to be researched into. Sir was talking about, Ramayana. It's in both Valmiki Ramayana and Kamba Ramayana that you find there is a mentioning of sun being seen in the middle of the night close to the North Pole. It's there in Valmiki Ramayana, it's there in Kamba Ramayana. When Anjaneya flies to go and search for the herbs in the Sanjeevani mountain, which is close to the Uttarakuru, which is almost the North Pole, he is not in a position to start with, find out which is the Sanjeevani mountain, and then suddenly he would see the sun's light. He gets perturbed because he has been instructed that he will have to bring the herbs before the dawn. Only then people can be revived. So he would only think, oh my God, I delayed and it's dawn time now. What's the point of me taking all these herbs? I've not even found the mountain. Then I have to go and search for the herbs. All that. And suddenly he'll remember, that's a curse that he had. He will forget whatever is required at the required point of time. And suddenly he'll remember, oh my God, I forgot, close to the North Pole, the sun would be visible even in the middle of the night. Now, does that coincide with the land of the midnight sun? And we've not even thought of all these things. I'm not trying to say that everything is there in ancient Indic wisdom. No. Let's be open about it. There are things where people can go wrong. Science understands that what was true yesterday will not be true today. So many things have changed. So it's not the argument that everything is there in the Indic system, but then we still have not opened our eyes to many things in the Indic system. Let's evaluate and probably take what is required, or if we find something worthwhile, why not adapt it? Why not adapt it? And to me, Indic system is not only what is available in the text, but then it is also the kind of life that we have been acclimatized to. The kind of life, the kind of material that we have used in our construction, the kind of things with which we have become adapted. We will have to understand that every place has its own features and qualities. We are taking from somewhere and we are trying to go for this kind of a floor. And I'm sure many of you would understand, many of you would have experienced the difficulty that we all face when we walk on this kind of a floor. I'm perennially scared because I had 2 falls. I'm perennially scared to keep my feet, I keep dangling. I'm scared if I would fall down or what. And I remember those days as small children, we used to kind of wash our hands and then do this kind of a thing, and all water droplets sprinkling all over, and nothing happened. After 2-3 minutes, everything had dried up and nobody fell down. That was because what is required for the body, such kind of material were used, and that was Indic knowledge. Today we are trying to take the Western knowledge, try to think of materials which do not fit our lifestyle and try to use them. And what is the point of people saying today all diseases, especially joint diseases, have gone up? Yes. Did you ever think of all these kinds of surgeries into the joints those days? Did not our grandfathers and fathers walk even when they were 70 plus and so on? What happened? The elastic recoil is lost. We're trying to use material where there is no elastic recoil and our joints are all screaming. They're crying, we don't even hear them. So it's Indic knowledge is not only the kind of, narration of names and say, yeah, our people knew that, but then so much of practical Indic knowledge which is available will have to be researched into. And my request to the Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute would be, now that you're into your 8th decade or 9th decade, or as you're progressing into your 9th decade, please consider expanding your research potential and research avenues and bring out all this information which is available in our own Sanskritam. Sanskritam is the basic. Okay, every other language, like let's forget the differences. Every other language of India has drawn from Sanskritam. Idu munnaliya, adu munnaliya la venda. Edu munnala irundhudo, edu pinnala irundhudo. Ippo ivlavu irukku. Ada we have not even tapped. நிறைய இருக்கு. டேப் பண்றதுக்கு நிறைய இருக்கு. Numbers. The way numbers have been portrayed, I'm sure all of you know. The way numbers, எனக்கெல்லாம் இப்போ கூட 1 crore அப்படின்னு எழுத சொன்னீங்கன்னா கொஞ்சம் நேரம் தடுமாறி 00 எழுதி இந்த பக்கத்திலேருந்து கவுண்ட் பண்ணி கோமா போட்டுட்டே வந்து அப்புறம்தான் அப்போ கூட 2 தடவை பார்த்து இது 1 crore தானா, இந்த 1 millionலாம் சொன்னால் அவ்வளோதான். லேக்ஸ் அண்ட் க்ரோர் சொன்னாலாவது கொஞ்சம் எழுத வரும். இந்த மில்லியன் பில்லியன்லாம் சொன்னால் பில்லியன் எவ்வளவு ட்ரில்லியன் எவ்வளவு நிச்சயமாக புரியாது. But then our people have given names. 10 to the power of 8 is so much, is called this. 10 to the power of 9 is called this. அப்போது எவ்வளோ கான்செப்டுவலைஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கணும். கான்செப்டுவலைஸ் பண்ணலைன்னா இட்ஸ் வெரி டிஃபிகல்ட் டு திங்க் ஆஃப் நம்பர்ஸ் லைக் 10 to the power of 35. The Yajurveda talks about a rishi preparing himself to do a yajna the next day. வேற ஒன்றும் இல்லை, சிம்பிள் சினாரியோ. நாளைக்கு யாகம் பண்ணணும். ஸோ ஹீ இஸ் ட்ரைங் டு பேக் த சமித்து கட்டு, அவ்வளோதான் சமித்து கட்டு. ஸோ ஹீ இஸ் ட்ரைங் டு பேக் இன் டென்ஸ், இன் ஹண்ட்ரட்ஸ், டென்ஸாக எடுத்து ஒரு பஞ்சு ஒரு 100 ஆகிடுது. அப்புறம் அந்த 100ஸ்லேருந்து ஸோ ஹீ கீப்ஸ் நரேட்டிங் இந்த நம்பர்ஸ் எல்லாம். ஹீ கோஸ் டு த லெவல் ஆஃப் 10 to the power of 35. 10 to the power of 34 is called Buri and 10 to the power of 35 is called Mahaburi. 10 to the power of 35 na எத்தனை ஜீரோ போடுறது? The way they have conceptualized, அதை கான்செப்டுவலைஸ் பண்ணலைன்னா அப்படி ஒரு நம்பரை யூஸே பண்ண முடியாது. We cannot even think of it. So there's so much available, so much material there, so much of wisdom available. It is for us to bring out, not necessarily bring out, it is for us to at least touch some facets of that wisdom and try to become in the போய் தங்கத்தை தொட்டால் நம்மளும் கொஞ்சம் அப்படி மினிமிப்போமா அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி அதை போய் கொஞ்சம் தொட்டோம்னா ப்ராபப்ளி we also will try to become a little golden. So my request to the Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute, whatever you have done is great and wonderful, and sustaining a research institute especially in language and Indic studies, Pradhanama language, it's very difficult. Because I belong to that generation. I don't know Dr. Tirumurthi and Raghavan sir. I belong to that generation. When I came into the college, people kept on saying, you don't have to bother about language. You know, especially STEM education, science education, you don't have to bother about language. Points mattu எழுதினா போதும். Points mattu எழுது. Don't worry about the language. I've always wondered, what do I write? Do I say the nerve is running from above downwards நீ எழுதுறதா? இல்லை nerve பேரை மட்டும் எழுதினா அது இங்கே நீங்க போகிறதுன்னு தெரியுமா, இங்கே நீங்க போகிறதுன்னு தெரியுமா, என்ன தெரியும்? பேர் மட்டும் எழுது, பாயிண்ட்ஸ் மட்டும் எழுது. லாங்குவேஜ் இல்லைன்னா அந்த பாயிண்ட்ஸ் மட்டும் எப்படி வரும்? பீப்புள் அசெம்பிள்ட் அப்படின்னு சொல்ல போறீங்களா, பீப்புள் வெண்ட் அவேன்னு சொல்ல போறீங்களா? லாங்குவேஜ் விட்டுருங்க, பீப்புள்னு மட்டும் எழுதி நிறுத்தினா என்ன புரியும்? பீப்புள் அசெம்பிள்ட் இந்த ஹால்னு புரியுமா, ஆர் பீப்புள் வெண்ட் அவே அப்படின்னு புரியுமா? இட் கேன் மீன் த ஆப்போசிட் திங். Unfortunately, we were all given to understand you don't have to worry about the language. Leave it, leave it, leave it. It is necessary that we do a rethinking, revisit this area. Language is required. And as an anatomist, I have found, because of the similarities between Sanskritam and the Greek and Latin family of languages, I have found lot many words which were difficult for others to understand were all easy for me to understand because of the Indic base. அவங்களுக்கு அது புரியாது. மெடிக்கல் காலேஜில் நுழைஞ்ச உடனே போய் பார்த்தாக்க ஒன்றும் க்ரீக் அண்ட் லாட்டினில் என்னென்னமோ இருக்கும். அந்த என்னென்னமோ புரியாது, ரொம்ப நாள் ஆகும். தப்பு தப்பா சொல்லி அது ப்ரொனன்சியேஷனும் வராது, ஸ்பெல்லிங்கும் வராது. அப்போ பழைய சிஸ்டத்தில் ஏஇ எல்லாம் சேர்த்தெல்லாம் எழுதணும். ஆல் தட் ஹேப்பன். But this Indic knowledge gave me that base. So, my request once again to the Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute is kindly look into all these matters and probably, I mean, I'm not here to advise you, but then I'm only kind of making a request that what I've personally experienced, I feel we need to expand our research avenues and try and bring out all that is available. I'm not saying that you're not doing it, but then try and expand further. I wish the Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute more and more growth, and I'm very happy to be part of this inaugural session where Dr. Tirumurthi would soon be inaugurating the 75th year celebration. Thank you very much. Nandri.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the inspiring speech. You have given the importance of Indic research, especially research in both Sanskrit and regional languages, and new topics for research for us, especially vaccination and inoculation. We'll surely take these ideas and work on them, ma'am. Thank you very much. May I now request our chief guest to hand over the first copy of the books to Pravachana Chudamani, Dr. Sudha Seshayyan. I request our President to hand over a set of books to Sri T.S. Tirumurthi. Shateshu Jayate Shuraha Sahat. And our donors. The institute is fortunate and has always been supported by generous philanthropists, and on this occasion we request respected Sri T.S. Tirumurthi sir to honor our prominent donors. Sri A. Krishnamurthy, Chairman, Amalgamation Group. Sri Vijay Santanam, Managing Director, Breaks India. Shri T.T. Srinivasa-Raghavan of Sundaram Finance. On his behalf, Shri Ganeshan will receive the souvenir. Sundaram Finance, they have also been supporters. Sundaram Home Finance, Shri Ramdas Kamath, prominent chartered accountant, Bangalore. 5 of our publications are released today in his sponsorship. Thank you very much, sir. Shri S. Santana Krishnan, prominent chartered accountant of PKF Sridhar and Santanam, represented by Shri C. Ramakrishnan. Rani Group of Companies, Tata Coffee. Thank you, sir. And Tata Consumers Limited. Okay, sir. Thank you. Shri P.R. Kannan. Shri P.R. Kannan. On this occasion, we would also like to honor our other prominent supporter, Shri V. Shrikant, Secretary of the Madras Sanskrit College, for all his support. Now we would like to honor the authors of the 14 publications. First, I would like to call upon Dr. S. Gopalan, author of Ancient Indian Surgical Instruments. Dr. K. Vidyuta, co-author, along with Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian and Dr. T.V. Vasudeva. They have authored Shivaswarodaya book. Dr. S. Muthulakshmi, author of Yoga Sangraha. Dr. V. Preeti, Dr. Rama Kalyani, author of Glimpses of Mathematics in Ancient India. Mrs. Srimati, Executive Director of IOB, will receive the copy. Dr. Sita Sundaram, History of Ancient Indian Algebra. Ms. Ramya Bhatt, along with Dr. R. Parthsarthi, has authored Vadavagni, Submarine Fire, Geographical Perspective. Professor R. Parthsarthi, Evolution of Earth in the Puranas. His brother Sri R. Dwarkanathan will receive the copy. Dr. S. Anuradha, author of Traditional Hindu Festivals. Dr. Vasumati Rajaram, author of Town Planning in Ancient India. Her brother-in-law, Shri B.V. Subramanian, will receive the copy on her behalf. Dr. V. Premalata, author of Primer of Ancient Indian Botany. And Dr. P.C. Muralidharan, the author of Krishi Parashara. Thank you very much, sir. On this occasion, we would also like to honor the printers, Mr. Ramchandran of Harish Printers, Mr. Ravi of Vignesha Printers, Shri B. Ganapati Subramaniam for all his support in our publications, thank you very much, sir. Now I request our chief guest, respected Shri T.S. Tirumurthi, to give us the inaugural address.